Shema Yisrael, Yahu Eloheinu, Yahu Echad. Baruch Shem Kebod Malkotho Leholam Voed.
Shalom, holy initiates and holy adepts. Welcome to my holy channel. I am the Chief Magician of Mystery Babylon, and I will be your Grandmaster and host for this very telistic teaching. So, a very brief exordium before I begin the telistic teaching. So, we do have a major problem, which is that we have practically no holy magicians in this last generation. Now, if you have ever gotten to know a black magician, if you are fully aware of black magicians and their method of operation, you should duly know that your average extremely highly initiated and extremely powerful black magician will have a very elaborate, decorated altar. Your high-level black magician will have an entire room at the very least set up as an altar. And it will be very elaborately and beautifully decorated with a huge altar, various pictures, or what you would call mandalas, many candles, etc., for his very elaborate performance of rituals and ceremonial magic. Now, you have to understand that their setup and even part of their method of operation is nothing but an inferior image of the holy magician, because it is the holy magician that holds the true power, that is the true grandmaster, that is at the top of the pyramid, so to speak. And, let me just briefly state that I introduced this telistic video by speaking to holy initiates and adepts. In other words, if you don't know what magic is, if your question is, Chief Magician of Mystery Babylon, how are you defining magic? If you have to ask that question, you're watching the wrong video. You've come to the wrong channel. Okay, I'm not here to babysit. I'm not here to break things down for you. I'm not here to explain to you all the easy stuff. This is a channel for extremely highly initiated holy initiates and adepts, okay? You're expected to know what magic is. You're expected to have all these basic questions already answered, okay? This is an extremely advanced channel and video, to say the least. So getting back on topic, it is the holy magician. It is only the holy magician that counts, and that has true validity. And like I said, unfortunately, we don't have really any holy magicians in this last generation, which is really, really sad. So in this video, I'm going to touch on a few points. Now, the expectation is that you've already seen, I have a number of videos dealing with high holy magic. So if you haven't seen all of those videos on my channel, please go and watch those videos first before you come and watch this channel, because this channel is already built and founded upon many of those other videos and teachings. Again, this is an extremely advanced video, okay? This is an extremely advanced video here before I get into the essence of the matter. So with that said, right, your average high-level holy magician is going to have, an entire room in his house set up and elaborately decorated as an altar to Yod-Heh-Vav-Heh, Elohei Yisrael. and will be beautifully decorated. And maybe soon I will reveal some pics of my beautifully decorated uh, liquid grandiloquent. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing the word correctly, but uh, I guess I'll just pronounce it as grandiloquent altar. Okay. So what you see here before you is a picture of me, of course, blacked out for anonymity. Um, and you will see the three boxes of tefillin on top of my head, right? So the true grandmasters don't own one set of tefillin, right? They own 3 to 4 sets of tefillin. And on the left is the tefillin of Rashi. On the right is Rabbeinu Tam, and in the center is the Ra'avad's tefillin, right? So we're channeling the three brains here, Chokhmah, Bina, and Kether. Now, it's very, very rare. You have to understand how rare it is for somebody to own 3 or 4 sets of tefillin and be channeling the Shefa of all three brains. It's very, very powerful. It's one of the highest and holiest, most powerful acts of holy magic. Now, you have to understand that not anyone can just do this, right? If you try to search online to purchase the tefillin of the Ra'avad or the Shimusha, good luck, because you're not going to find any online stores that sell these tefillin. Now, there are a few places you can contact online and you can request those tefillin, but they're not going to give them to you because, right, the rabbinical order, right, the standard modern rabbinical order as it exists, they don't just easily hand out these sets of tefillin to anyone, right? They're very weary of just making these tefillin and handing them out to just anyone, right? And to me, that's very, very bad, because it signifies that they don't have a full understanding of what's going on at all. But that's your typical rabbinical Jew. That's your typical religious Jew. They're very ignorant, and there's a lot of spiritual blindness on their part. Um, and so that's a huge problem. You know, that's a huge problem to the holy global order as it exists. And so then the workaround is that you would purchase, a standard tefillin set, and you yourself would then have to reconfigure that tefillin, right? Now, if you purchase a standard set of tefillin, right, and you go to a scribe, a standard Jewish scribe, right, and you ask them, hey, can you reconfigure the tefillin for me? To say Shimusha or Ra'avad. Again, they're not going to do it, right? Because, again, they're very spiritually blind and they're very ignorant, right? Right. So I'll give you an example, right? I had somebody call all of the Sofrim in Mystery Babylon. So we called all the chief Sofrim of Mystery Babylon, and we asked them, would they be willing to reconfigure a tefillin, let's say of Rashi or Rabbeinu Tam, to the Ravad or the Shimusha? And they all said no. Now, I spoke with some of these Sofrim, and they're very ignorant. Some of these Sofrim don't even know about these esoteric Lurianic teachings regarding the tefillin. The ignorance is quite staggering, to say the least. So they're not willing to do it. So then you have to have the knowledge of a sofer to reconfigure the tefillin yourself. So because I already know that the Sofrim are not going to reconfigure the tefillin for me. No one's going to reconfigure the tefillin for me because they don't know who I am. They don't know who they stand before. So I, having the knowledge of a sofer, had to reconfigure my own tefillin, which is a very if you don't know what you're doing, you can seriously damage and break or mess up your tefillin, right? Luckily, um, I was able to successfully reconfigure tefillin to match those of the Shimusha and my mistake, to reconfigure to the Ra'avad and even to Rabbeinu Tam. Although you can purchase Rabbeinu Tam tefillin online easily. So you can easily get the Rashi and the Rabbeinu Tam online, but you can't get Shimusha or Ra'avad. Good luck, getting, it's practically impossible. So you're gonna have to reconfigure either a Rabbeinu Tam or Rashi to Ra'avad or Shimusha, which of course is what I did. And bear in mind, these are very expensive tefillin, right? What you see over my head, those 3 sets of tefillin, are worth over $2,000. That's over $2,000, on top of my head there that you see. Right, so I have a $1,500, one tefillin is like $1,500, right? If I have a very expensive tefillin, right? One of my tefillins is close to $1,500, right? If you're going to reconfigure that tefillin, you better know what the hell you're doing, or you'll damage it and you'll break it, and you just lost $1,500. So it's a very, very delicate operation, to say the least. Very, very delicate. But anyways, this is the highest tefillin proof that indeed I am the chief magician of Mr. Babylon, because you have to ask yourself how many Jews, right, are donning 3 or 4 sets of tefillin and performing very high magical operations, right? I tell you right now for a fact, it's probably less than 10. Okay, it's probably less than 10. If those are the facts. Okay, so what you see here before you is the proof and seal that indeed I am the chief magician of Babylon. I can't even begin to explain to you the sheer magnitude of nuclear power in donning 3 sets of, or 4 sets of tefillin. Okay, you can't even possibly fathom the power, right? So you have to understand, right, that there's a critical difference between the holy domain and the satanic domain. Because in the satanic domain, Samael will readily open the third eye of the initiate and adept, right? Exposing him completely to the supernal realm. But it doesn't work that way in the holy domain, because there's no need for that within the holy domain here in this construct, as Hashem knows it. Right? So if you're a holy initiate and adept at the very least, and even if you perform the simplest of magical operations, your third eye is not open, and you can't see into the supernal realm what's going on. But there's a lot of activity, right? When the holy initiate and adept, even if he does the most basic prayer, he is arousing and moving the supernal realm without seeing it, without knowing it. It's only when you get to the highest levels of initiation that it is then revealed to you, and even possibly shown to you, what is really going on at the onset of these holy magical operations, right? Putting on tefillin is a very powerful holy magical operation in of itself. And there is certain default spiritual activity that takes place for any Jew who dons tefillin. Now, the problem is that practically every Jew doesn't have their third eye open and isn't seen into the supernal realm, and so they have no idea what they're doing and what is going on in the supernal realm around them when they are donning the tefillin. Now, I can explain to you and I can reveal to you exactly what's going on. The nature of the spiritual operations and activities that begin when a Jew dons the tefillin. You have to understand this momentous difference between the holy domain and the satanic domain. And it can be a problem when you have so much ignorance and so much blindness. The most basic spiritual activities being performed by the religious masses, and they don't even see, they don't know, and they don't see what they're actually doing in the spirit realm. However, there are a few saints that have had their third eye open and are able to peer and see into the spirit realm actually what truly is going on. And it's a lot of very esoteric activity, to say the least, but powerful, powerful. Now, when you get to the highest levels, like say the Grandmaster level, like myself, when you're down in 3 or 4 HaTefillin, those spiritual operations become magnified, by a million, but over in the millions. You're going to have to just perhaps read between the lines a little bit as to what I'm saying. If you're an extremely high initiate and adept, I think you'll more than understand as to what I'm getting as to what I'm actually saying here. Now, here is another pic of me with in my full. I'm fully clothed in my entire magical gear. Now, we have to understand something very important. Why is it that the standard set of HaTefillin, which is the Rashi, why is it that it corresponds to Bina? It's very simple if you're fully initiated into the Lutheranic Kabbalah. It is because Ima is the closest to Zeranpin, or the sun. And we are all sons of the Most High. And so, being sons of the Most High, it is only natural and most fitting that the first and foremost Shefa that we should be receiving should be from Ima. It's a most natural basic point of Bina, pun intended. This is a very critical, momentous point to understand. Now, we have to truly meditate and understand the Arizal's esoteric teaching on the HaTefillin and his reconciliation of the matter. What is the Arizal truly saying? Right? Because the most basic understanding, the most basic levels of these esoteric teachings have simply gone over the head of practically all Jews. I mean, discounting the fact that practically every Jew is ignorant on the Lutheranic Kabbalah. So what is he truly saying? Well, what he was saying was that the current setup, the current standard setup or halakha, is extremely deficient. It's really what he's saying. Because if you're only wearing the tefillin of the Rashi, then quintessentially you're only channeling the Shefa from Bina. Right? So the question then becomes, why would you just channel the Shefa of Ima and not channel also the Shefa of Abba and Kether? Right? So quintessentially, this is just the sheer quintessence of his teaching, is that the halakha, the setup, the status quo as it has been for over thousands of years, is deficient. And I don't want to be deficient. I don't want to be in a state of deficiency. It's only natural that I should channel the entire Shefa of the sphere and of the brains in order to be truly complete. Now, the mystery of the left-hand strap is very simple, right? It's wrapped on your left arm, right? And so the left arm, according to the classical Kabbalah, is Geburah, signifies Geburah. But everything is relative, right? We're dealing with Einsteinian relativity here. And so our left is the supernal's right, which would be Chesed. So it's all relative. But either way, the standard halakha is one strap on the arm, right? It doesn't matter whether you call that Chesed or Geburah. The point is, you're only channeling the Shafa from one of the arms. Again, deficiency. That is why you see me in my pic with both of my arms strapped, so that I'm fully channeling the Shafa from both arms, both Chesed and Geburah. Otherwise, there is no balance. You have to channel both Chesed and Geburah for there to be a balance. Because if you're only channeling one, then you're not in the state of supernal equilibrium. If you're only channeling the Shefa of Ima, you're not in a complete state of equilibrium. This can hinder certain very lofty levels of magical operations, where a complete state of equilibrium is required. The Grandmasters know this very well. So let us then go a little bit deeper into some issues. Well, actually, before going back to the pic, you might be asking about my talit. Well, my talit is a very special talit, right? You have to understand that the average talit that you see most Jews wear is actually a very modern set of talit. Nothing wrong with that. But I, being a true ancient Jew, I always prefer antiquity and the ancients over the modern. I'm not old school. I'm not old fashioned. I'm ancient fashioned. I'm ancient schooled, as I like to say. So the talit that you see on top of me is the talit as they existed, over 2,000 years ago, over 2,000 to 3,000 years ago, during the generation of Eliyahu. The talit that you see over me is how the talit looked and appeared and were made in the generation of Eliyahu and during that time period, And it's a very expensive, beautifully embroidered talit that's worth, I think it's close to worth over $1,000, made with very special high-level fabrics, and the dimensions and its construction is all based on the way it was done over 3,000 years ago. A true talit, right? The way the true ancient grandmasters and prophets, Israeli Hebrew prophets, had and possessed. So it's not the typical size and fabric, right, of your modern talit. It's very, very beautifully and luxurious thing. Only an Israeli prince would wear such a talit as myself. So let's get into some deep mysteries. So we're going to go into Tikkun HaZohar in folio 9b, where there's many mysteries of the HaTefillin are revealed, lots. So much so I don't even have the full time and space to get into. But I want to briefly focus on some mysteries behind the straps. So I have here in the Aramaic, I have a section here that I want to specifically read. So in this section, it is revealed that one of the esoteric levels to the straps is that, right, there are two black straps, right, and those two black straps, right, corresponding to one arm, here the text reveals that they correspond to Netzach and Hod. Now, it states here that according to the halacha, the Kabbalistic halacha is that one strap should be long, going down to the belly, and the other strap should be short, going down to the chest. Now, it's only when you get into the Lurianic Kabbalah that they'll fully explain the esoteric reasons and mysteries behind this halacha. And it has everything to do with the flow and emanation coming from Bina into Zeranpin, or the sun. And so the true master will have one of the straps extend down to the phallus, right? So the way I've configured my tefillin is, and it's very complex, but one of the brains, right? I have it so that it is the right strap, right, that is long and goes down to the phallus, and I have the left strap going down to the chest. But in another brain, I have it reverse. And so it's all dependent, on the sphera that you're dealing with and the flow and emanation that you so need and desire for the magical operations that you're performing. So very, very powerful mysteries here, right? These are things, that unless you're fully initiated, you're not going to know, right? Because when you first get a standard set of tefillin, the straps are not properly configured, right? They have to be properly configured. Now, I want to reveal one last mystery before I conclude this telastic teaching. So what you see here before you is an occult diagram of the Tetragrammaton. And this occult diagram appears in many Lurianic texts. I just took a snapshot here from a page in Sefer Mekhamelech, but numerous Lurianic texts will contain this diagram. I think the origin of this diagram is Tikkunei HaZohar, if I'm correct. But you'll find it in many Lurianic and Kabbalistic texts. Now, there's many esoteric levels to this diagram, and they're partially explained in certain Lurianic texts, but never really fully. I get to see a full, hardcore breakdown and explanation of this esoteric pictorial. Now, I'm going to reveal an extremely powerful esoteric level to this diagram of what's really going on here. So there's a great mystery and a great secret here that is only known by the Grandmasters. Now, as you know, when we're talking about the holy altar, right, it is a prerequisite that there has to be many candles, right? And, ideally, depending on the magical operations that you're performing, those candles would be made of certain solid homogeneous colors, right? You might have a red candle, a blue candle, right? It depends on the magical operations that are being performed. But typically the holy magician will just use homogeneous solid white candles. But essentially what we see here is a configuration of those candles, right? So each of those circles, right, each of those circles represents the position and placement of a candle. And in the altar room, right, you would place 24 candles that would be arranged in this configuration for the invocation and evocation of Yod He Vav He. Now there's 24 corresponding to the 24 divine elders. So when you are invoking or evoking Atika Kadisha and the 24 Tikkunim, this will be a most fitting configuration for that. In fact, I have a powerful prayer for that invocation or evocation on my channel. But that's one of the highest, most esoteric levels to this pictorial that I've just revealed. So once again, these are all seals and proofs that indeed I'm the Chief Magician or Mr. Babylon. I know many of you recognize, some of you are, some of you who are profane, you've cursed yourself, you're blind, you have no idea who I am. That's fine. You'll find out soon enough. But thus concludes this very telastic teaching. Shalom. Wassalam.